Why Jesus spoke in parables, though designed to reveal. If Jesus wanted to be perfectly clear, he spoke plainly about commands all the time, how to treat others, how to forgive, how to care for the poor. But we're keen to the deeper stoke for shaping human life. His language shifted and became indirect, symbolic, layered. Parables were not meant to confuse people. They were meant to filter perception. Jesus understood something essential about worse. Truth cannot be forced into a mind that is not ready to eat. When information arrives before perception is prepared, you get him jet or his sword. So in thought Jesus, he told stories that waited for the listener. A parable is not it does not persuade. It does not faint of. It simply presents an image and leaves space around. That space is not empty. It is active. It invites attention should. It asks the listener knows who resonates, what unsolves, what lingers. And not noticed, words begins to move. And once a word moves, insight falls naturally. This is why Jesus often says, those who have ears to hear, let them hear. He is not insulting anyone. He is naming reality. Perception varies. Two people could hear the same word and express completely different meanings. Parables are not puzzles to be solved. They are mirrors. They reveal a person's ready to recognize. When Jesus speaks about seeds falling on different kinds of soil, he is not giving an agricultural lesson. He is describing how words receive truth. Some minds are cry with noise. Some haunt of fear. Some shallow, enthusiastic upon mood. And some open, patient, and receptive. The story does not judge the soil. It describes it. In the same way, with symbolic conditions layers speak rulers or authorities, they are not introducing mythology for spectacle. They are naming patterns of influence that operate differently depending on awareness. These pens rule only where they go unseen. This is why Jesus rarely confronts these forces directly. He does not argue with them. He exposes them by revealing their effects. He speaks to fear, and fear loosens. He speaks to shame, and shame releases. He speaks to control, and control weakens. Seeing dissolves domination. The parables function like lenses. They do not something new reality. They knows what right there. Consider how often Jesus described in his state as external figures. A master, a thief, the troch, a shepherd, a king. These are not literal portraits. They are relational metaphors. We understand how influence operates within the human experience. A master demands. A shepherd guides. A thief distracts. A king organizes loyalty. Each element points to a different way awareness could be governed. These are symbolic language becomes essential. You cannot point directly at fear while someone is still identifying with it. You cannot name the true while it still feels like responsibility. You can squire a story. And when the story lands, recognition happens quietly. Our recognition's what Jesus means by seeing. Seeing not all information. See is the trusting illusion. An illusion does not disappear through argument. It dissolves through awareness. This is why Jesus often refuses to explain his parables. When disciples ask why he speaks this way, he tells them something that sounds always harsh, as deeply honest. Some people are not ready to see. Not because they're incapable, but because through acquires the inner. To see clearly, you have to listen to the frameworks that make you feel safe. Parables bypass those defenses. They slip past the mind's need to control meaning and speak directly to perception. They allow truth to land without confrontation. This is also why parables feel alive across centuries. They're not bound to a single historical situation. They describe structures of consciousness that repeat where humans are human. When symbolic language later speaks about hidden rulers or unseen powers, it is continuing this same tradition. It is giving shape to the forces that govern thought, emotion, and behavior when awareness is absent. Jesus does not invite people to haunt these forces. He invites them to outgrow them. He does not teach vigilance as paranoia. He teaches it as presence. Watch, he says. Stay awake. Not because danger is everywhere, but because awareness is rare. And once awareness becomes stable, the forces that depended on blindness lose their hold. They're not defeated, they're homefelt. They are rendered around to clarity. This is the deeper purpose of parables. They're not moral lessons. They're training in perception. They teach people how to notice, how to remain attentive, how to recognize what's shaping them without their consent. And this training is not abstract. It is intensely practical. The fact how you respond to fear, how you relate to authority, how you recognize manipulation, both external and internal. With your thinness, powers. Jesus is not offering seeker knowledge. He is offering a way of seeing clearly a world that brackets from blindness. And then we think all together the same way, a news in you are obeying. The meaning of rulers and powers. What symbolic language was pointing to. In early followers of Jesus and Leo's symbolic traditions influenced by Greek language, use words like rulers, powers, or authorities, though not inventing a hidden mythology. They were reaching for language strong enough to espouse something people thought every day but struggled to explain. The Greek word archon simply means one who rules. It does not imply horns, wings, or monstrous forms. It implies governance, control, direction, influence. What Jesus' later symbolic riders were pointing toward the reality that human beings are shaped by forces that demand on themselves. Forces that do not feel foreign. Forces that speak in your own voice. Fear that sounds like reason. Shame sounds like conscience. Control sounds like responsibility. Ease and knocks through ways invading from the outside. There are two powers that gain authority without unquestioned. This is why symbolic language speaks of powers of the age. These forces are not eternal. They are historical, psychological, and cultural. They arise in particular contexts, shape behavior for a time, and then dissolve while awareness outgrows them. Jesus never treats these forces of them. He treats them as temporary ruse, ringthones, but fragile in their foundation. What gives them power is not strength. It is invisibility. As long as a person believes their thoughts are simply who they are, those thoughts rule unquestioned. As long as fear feels like wisdom, a direct hair without resistance. As long as shame feels like morality, enforces obey without change. This is why Jesus is such in rule and behavior. He does not start by telling people what to do. He starts by helping them see differently. You heard that, but I tell you, that phrase is not correction. It is reframing. He is exposing the way inherited interpretations, cultural, religious, psychological, shape reality. These interpretations function like invisible authorities. They rule by authority when it's possible. Wait, that though was dangerous. To symbolically name them as rulers is not exaggeration. It is accurate. They are a star. They command emotion. They dictate reaction. And like in war, they remain power only as long as the legitimacy goes unquestioned. This is where symbolic language becomes essential. You cannot directly confer a pattern or a stored involve. beacon furrai symbolically. You can near something that acts upon you rather something as you. That naming creates distance. This is queer's choice. Choice queer's frame. This is where language symbolic tradition spoke as seen roars. Not as an act of supernatural vision, but as an act of discernment. To see rulers to reckon that aberration. To know some fears speaking. To know legos to funny self. To know us when controls masquerades care. Once notice, these forces lose their fury. They may still appear. They may still speak. But they know on a command. Jesus describes this moment repeatedly, though never in technical language. He calls it freedom. He calls it truth. He calls it light. The truth will set you free. Truth, in this sense, non-information, is accurate perception. You are not free by learning about rulers. You are free by recognizing their operating. This is why Jesus does not teach people to fight darkness. He teaches them to bring light. Darkness is not a thing to boil. It is the absence of thing. Which light rise, darkness has no or stain. Symbolic traditions the latest spook of archons were attempting to preserve this insight in a world increasingly dominated by systems, local, acknowledged, religious, that benefited from unconscious obedience. The language may sound dramatic, but the experience it describes is deeply ordinary. Edward knows what feels like attacked against their own well-being because fear felt convincing. Everyone knows what it feels like to stay silent because shame felt authoritative. Everyone knows what it feels like to comply with expectations that drain life rather than sustain it. These are no moral failures. They are perceptual ones. Jesus' teaching does not shame people for being ruled. It invites them to wake up. Why do you worry? Why are you afraid? Do you understand? These are not accusations. They're invitations to look again. And this is where the idea of seeing becomes central. Seeing is not mystical. It is us. It is the man who therefore is not fat, that a feeling is not a command, that a pattern is not your identity. When not your ident, the rule lives strong. No ritual is required. No battle is fought. No technique is mastered. Or hath long deserves domination. This is why Jesus' way is so kind and so dangerous to systems bottom to shore. He is not a place one ruler of another. He removes the illusion that rulers are necessary at all. The kingdom of God is among you. Not later. Not elsewhere. No. That kingdom does not arise through force. It arrives to its height. And won't fight begins to stabilize, funty mobilitans, the world does not change, by revolutions to a DOS. Or once controlled it now reveals its all. What once felt inevitable now feels optional. What once rude now waits for permission. This is the beginning of freedom, now as rebellion, as clarity. And clarity, once it arises, is a momentum thrown. Once, not vision. One of the quiet tragedies of his language is how easily is misunderstood and taken of face value. Words meant to point you will get dragged outward. Metaphors meant to awaken awareness get turned into spectacle. And nor is this more obvious than the way people interpret Jesus' constant references to seeing. Again and again, he speaks to people who can physically see perfectly well and yet insist they're blind. He speaks to crowds who hear every word and yet tells them they're deaf. He uses physical blindness at times, but those moments are never the center of the story. They are signs pointing towards something deeper. Jesus is not obsessed with eyesight. He's obsessed with perception. When he says, "Bless our eyes, for they see," he's not congratulating biology. He's naming a shift in awareness. He is pointing to more when a person stops being unconsciously what and hurt parts and starts to notice what is actually shaping them. Seeing, in Jesus' teaching, is not an ability you acquire. It is a condition you recover. Children see naturally. They notice without interpreting. They respond without filtering everything through fear, identity, or control. Over time, an openness gets layered over explanations, expectations, and rules. Eventually, a fissure becomes clear. Well, what's so obvious now feels distant. Jesus repeatedly points back to that original clarity. Unless you become like little children, he's not romanticizing innocence. He's describing how media was. The boy see without immediately categorizing. To feel without immediately defending. To notice without immediately obeying the words of fear. This is why Jesus called the seas always per the call to watch or stay awake. These are not passive states. They require attention, presence. Wounds remain referring to the escaping into interpretation. Most people do not realize how rarely they are actually present. Thoughts narrate passively. Emotions pull attached the more your anticipation. Social conditioning supplies automatic reactions. And through all this, words get buried. Life happens, but no one is really there to notice it. Jesus enroutes it autopilot. He tells stories that slow the mind down. He asks questions that disrupt certainty. Who refuse to give direct answers that will allow people to stop looking. His teaching, though, is non-fictions. Is intentional. Seeing requires space. This is where layer symbolic language about learning to see gets misunderstood. It was near unlocking a hidden sensory. It was about learning to who worse did lie to notice what normally runs unseen. Fear does not feel like fear when it is unquestioned. It feels like caution. Control does not feel like domination. It feels like responsibility. These forces only reveal themselves once awareness separates from them. And that separation is what Jesus calls sight. This is why he often says things like, "Why think these things of the hearts?" He's drawing attention to the fact that most of what governs people up is low conscious awareness. Thoughts arise, decisions fall, and no one stops to ask where the impulse came from. Seeing begins when you ask that question. Not aggressively, not suspiciously, but honestly. What's moving you right now? Reacting to? Or afraid of losing? These questions are not moral judgments. They are perceptual inquiries. And when asked gently, it opens space. That space is where symbolic rulers become visible, not as beings, but as patterns. You begin to notice how certain thoughts always appear in certain situations. How particular emotions surface particularly. How the same inner voices repeat themselves across different contexts. Once noticed, they are no longer absolute. They can still appear, but they lose their authority to command immediate obedience. You can listen without complying. You can feel without being of will. You can think without being carried away. This is what Jesus means when he says the truth sets people free. Truth is not doctrine. Accurate seeing. Accurate seeing does not require effort. It requires honesty. The willingness to know that without actually being a thought who you wish without being. This is why Jesus never shames people for ways. He understands how easy it is to be ruled by what you cannot see. His frustration is reserved for those who refuse to look, who cling to certainty because uncertainty feels threatening. Seeing destabilizes false security. It dissolves identities built on fear. It exposes illusions that once felt pretended, and that can be unsettling. This is why Jesus' message produces such different reactions. Some people feel relief. Others feel frightened. Some feel weakened. Others feel exposed. The difference is non-intelligent morai. It reigns. Thee can't be force. It can only invite. And want to vie, full gradually. A world is no real wealth. It deepeth layer by layer. Each layer reveals a new degree of freedom, not from responsibility, but from unconscious rule. This is the sense in which Jesus' teaching is dangerous. Not because it encourages rebellion, but because it dissolves unconscious obedience. People that see clearly are not easily manipulated. They do not respond predictably to fear. They do not surrender agency to voices that promise safety in exchange for submission. Theme restores choice. And once choice returns, the symbolic rulers lose their grip. They can no longer hide behind invisibility. They can no longer masquerades and boy. This is no mystical achievement. A human kahaze. One that Jesus assumes horror's core. In this hoy does not happen through extortion, no. It happens through purpose, through returning again and again to presence, to attention, to honest noticing, which leads to a crucial quieting. The thee wordeth. If freedom that gives with noticing, then why do so many people resist it? That question takes us deeper into role through play and maintain blindness, and why Jesus speaks so often to let into the quiet alliance between control and awareness. It seemed were simply a matter of intelligence, most people would already be free. If ready to emerge automatically from education or moral effort, history would look very different. But Jesus consistently points to something else, something more subtle and far more powerful. He points to fear. Not fear of panic or terror, but fear as a background orientation. A constant, low-level tension and shapes perception without announcing itself. Fear that does not feel dramatic. Fear that feels reasonable. That kind of fear does not scream. It whispers. It advises. It cautions. And most importantly, it sways. Fear explains why you stay theme. Fear explains why question is dangerous. Fear explains why certainty is safer than curiosity. Jesus understands that fear does not merely respond to threats. It creates them. It projects danger fully onto silence, onto change. In doing so, it protects blindness. Because blindness feels safe. To see clearly is to made then safen. To see clearly is to notice how much of your life has been shaped unconsciously. To see clearly is to risk losing identities that once felt protective. Fear steps in to prevent that breath. This is why Jesus so often begins with the same phrase, do not be afraid. He is now offering cover. He is naming the obstacle. Fear nails attention. It collapses awareness around survival. It trains the mind to scan for threats and ignore everything else. And the ignorance faint, symbolic rules thrive. Control becomes attractive. Certainty becomes addictive. Obedience feels like safety. Fear is not need to rule openly. It rules best what disguises sound as wisdom. This is why people claim so tightly explanations that keep things more. Why they defend police that quietly limit them. Why they resist questions that feel destabilizing, even as questions could lead to freedom. Jesus encounters this resistance constantly. He heals, and people are afraid. He forgives, and people are offended. He liberates, and people demand rules. Not because they love oppression, but because freedom requires seeing, and seeing requires letting go of familiar fears. Fear prefers blindness because blindness preserves predictability. You cannot see or see shaping. You can believe the ranches are novel. You can see, that's just how I am, or that's just how the world works. You can wear responsibility for layers by attributing everything you suck of fears. Seeing moves users, and thus frightening. This is why Jesus' message is not universally celebrated. It does not merely comfort the afflicted. It disturbs the comfortable. It challenges the invisible greens people of me of fear ashamed for stability. Fear tells you a questioning through cost a blind. Fear tells you noticing manipulation isolate you. Fear tells you that seeing too much will make life harder. Sometimes fear is right, at least temporarily. Seeing does change relationships. It alters how you respond to power. It reshapes what you tolerate. It can make certain systems feel unbearable once you recognize how they operate. Jesus never denies this cause. Instead, he reframes it. What does it profit a person to gain or lose their soul? Thy question is not about morality. Is our worse? A hope train clay for comfort. A hope choosing blindness because sight feels too demanding. Fear brings a safety, a doers confines. It offers protection, it fragile beings. And because through is subtle, most people never realize they are serving it. Symbolic language calls this a ruler because that is exactly how it functions. It governs junctions, enforces boundaries. It punctures deviation. Unlike any ruler, it relies on compliance. Jesus' work is not to overthrow fear by force. It is to expose it by light. He brings attention to it gently, persistently, without accusation. Why are you afraid? Words of faith. These are not condemnations. They are invitations to know what's been drawing the response. Once fear is knows, it weakens. Not immediately, not dramatically, but gradually. Articulations lose credibility. Its urgency feels as heavy. Its voice sounds less authoritative. And in the weakening, wounds expands. This is why Jesus often pairs feelings with trust. Not trust of belief in fair outcome, a choice's willingness to remain present without needing certainty. Do not worry about tomorrow. As fortune is not naive. It is perceptual. Worry pulls attention into imagined futures and reinforces fear's rule. Presence dissolves that projection. Fear needs time to already. A war needs lids in the present. New turn to presence, fear loses leverage. It cannot govern what you are no feeling with anticipation or regress. This is the deeper meaning behind Jesus' call to stay awake. Wakefulness is no alertness to danger. It is alertness to reality. And reality, seen clearly, is far less strident than few suggests. The symbolic rules lose power not because they're fear, because the narrative collapses. It depends on blindness. One thing against their authority has negotiable. This does not happen all at once. Fear is not surrender easily. It has been protecting you, however imperfectly, for a long time. It resists exposure. But Jesus does not rush his process. He instils peace. He invites patience. He invites Jones. He invites compassion toward herself as the world grows. He no neck of vows against her powers. He belongs to the present. In honesty, one stage begins to reorganize life naturally. This is why Jesus does not promise instant transformation. He promises freedom. Of freeing one fold, the perception deepens. And the perception deepens, something remarkable happens. You begin to realize that fear was never the enemy. It was a signal pointing toward what had not yet been seen. And once seen, it no longer needs to rule. When protection becomes a prison, control rarely announces itself as domination. If it did, most people resist immediately. Instead, control arises quietly, or lend to care. It speaks in tone of responsibility. It presents itself as protection. This is why Fotitka as the control promises or and care or it offers predictability when uncertainty feels threatening. It reassures the anxious mind of everything's matched carefully enough, painting the void. Jesus sank this temptation deeply. He sees how easily people trade worse for structure, how quickly they accept rigid framework to those privileged to reduce anxiety, how often they confuse obedience with peace. This is why so much of his teaching unsettles people who value order above truth. Control feels safer than freedom because freedom requires presence. Control allows you to outsource responsibility for awareness to rules, systems, and authorities. As why somebody else is in charge, you do not have to stay awake. But control always comes with a cost. It narrows life. It restricts curiosity. It punishes deviation. And most importantly, it replaces trust with compliance. Jesus encounters this repeatedly in religious contests. He watches people cling to laws meant to guide them, even when those laws begin to harm. He sees how rules that once served life slowly turn to recognitions of fear. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. The theme is not a theological debate. It is a warning about control, about what happens when structure is designed to support or becomes subserved for it. Control thrives where fear is already prepared to ground. Once fear convinces her the world is dangerous, control steps in as the solution. Follow the rules. Stay along. Do not contravene. Think you will prevail. But they obtain through control fatal. It depends on constant enforcement, constant vigilance, constant suppression of anything unpredictable. Seeing threatens that arrangement. Awareness introduces flexibility. It invites discernment as the blind obedience. It allows for nuance. And nuance is dangerous persistent. It depends on uniform behavior. This is why Jesus' presence alone feels destabilizing to those invested in control. He does not only rebel. He refuses to control and conformity contradicts compassion or clarity. He heals where healing violates rules. He eats with people who threaten more. He forgives without permission. Each act exposes the limits of control, not by attacking it, but by demonstrating something more grounded. Jesus does not offer chaos as alternative. He offers trust. Trust in awareness. Trust in presence. Trust in reality. It does not require constant amendment to remain meaningful. This is deeply uncomfortable for people accustomed to control. Without rigid structures, they fear glance. Without clear boundaries, they fear confusion. Without enforcement, they fear exploitation. Jesus does not dismiss these fears. He understands them. But he also knows they are exaggerated by blindness. Control depends on the ether. Without everything falls apart. Awareness reveals a different view. Much of what control manages was never real to begin with. It was anxiety projected onto the future. This is why Jesus consistently invites people to look at what is actually happening now. Consider the birds. Look at the lilies. These are not product diversions. They are exercises in perception. He's trained people to notice right the interpretation without fear-based narration. Control lives in imagination. Awareness lives in presence. When you return to presence, the need for control diminishes naturally. Not because life becomes perfectly safe, but because you become more responsive, more adaptable, more grounded. This is the great irony Jesus exposes. Control does not actually protect you from uncertainty. It only delays your encounter with us. And when uncertainty finally breaks through, as it always does, those who rely on control feel shattered. Those who relied on awareness remain steady. This is why Jesus speaks so often about letting go, about losing your life to find it, about losing who you cling to. He's not encouraging recklessness. He is pointing out the clean self as the problem. Control tight awareness, letting go of offenders, and if they awareness is what dissolves the symbolic rulers that drive fear or rigidity. What's no need control to feel safe, controls authority. This does not mean you abandon wisdom or boundaries. It means those boundaries arise from clarity, not anxiety, from presence, not fear. Jesus models this constantly. He sets boundaries as a defense. He acts defiantly or rigid. He moves through the chaos. This is a balance control cannot fear. Control demands certainty for action. Awareness acts the uncertainty. And this is why fetus we feels risky as invested in faithful structure. It removes the illusion that anything external can guarantee peace. Peace, he shows, emerges from alignment with reality, not from energies. Once this is seen, the grip of control loosens. Rules become tools instead of masters. Authority becomes relational as that calls it. Safety becomes something experienced outwardly, rather than something demanded externally. And in that shift, something profound happens. You no longer need to be ruled. The monk ruled lose their rules. There is a moment, quiet, unremarkable, when something shifts. Nothing dramatic happens at the outside. No revelation descends. No authorities enfountered. And yet, internally, the answer changes. We once felt compelling solely through the actual. What once felt inevitable now feels questionable. This is moment where it breaks the spell. Jesus never described this moment of victory. He did not celebrate. He barely names it. But he structures his entire Titan realms. Because once awareness stabilizes, the forces that depend on blindness can no more operate the same way. A spell only works as long as it goes unquestioned. The symbolic rulers, the patterns of fear, control, and unconscious obedience do not disappear when they are seen. They simply lose their claim to authority. They can still suggest, but they can no longer command. They can still appear, but they can no longer define reality. This is why Jesus does not instruct people to eliminate thoughts or emotions. He does not teach suppression. He teaches not identification. Why do you call me good? Who told you? Where does this come from? These questions denote what you experience. They create space around, and not space or sense free. Most people believe free in constant teaching circumstances. Jesus shows that freedom comes from changing relationship, the relationship to thoughts, to emotions, to authority, to fear. Once awareness is present, circumstances lose their absolute power. A fearful thought arises, but awareness notices it. A controlled ethos surfaces, but awareness does not obey it. A familiar inner voice speaks, but awareness recognizes its power. Recognition alone is enough. This is why Jesus' teaching feels almost frustratingly simple. He does not offer complex rituals or secret knowledge. He offers attention, presence, honesty, and those seem too ordinary to be powerful until they practice. The spell breaks not because awareness fights the rulers, but because it exposes the dependents. They require unconscious participation. They require belief without spectrum. They require identification. Once identification loosens, the entire structure weakens. Jesus demonstrates this repeatedly when confronted by authority. He's not turns. He's not accept this premises. He responds from a place the authority cannot reach, clarity. Went to the season with fears. That statement not political vain, is persucture willens. He refuses to collapse reality into the categories of power being imposed. He steps outside the freeing imposed. Always does that. It refuses to retract in false binaries. It does not accept fear-based definitions of reality. It does not rush to defend itself. This is why awareness feels turning to system Buddha the chore. It cannot be predicted. It cannot be coerced. It cannot be contained by rules alone. Allurance listens, but does not submit automatically. And this listen is crucial, or it does not thought the inrules. It hears them clearly. It notices their tone, their urgency, their timing. It begins to recognize how they appear moons of vorbui, how they spoon sondi. Seen the no while views. It requires presence. The more present you are, the less power these pants have. Not because they vanish, but because presence interrupts their momentum. Fear depends on projection. Control depends on anticipation. Blindness depends on distraction. Presence dissolves all three. This is why Jesus speaks so often about present moment. Do not worry about tomorrow. Today is not true thone. He is not minimizing pain. He is directing attention to where freedom actually exists. Tomorrow's imagined. Yesterday is murmured. Only the present could be seen. And see will break the hell. Once this is understood, spiritual life stops being strong against invisible enemies and becomes a practice of clarity. You no need to have for rulers. He simply knows what's healthy ruling. And he knows its rule weakens. This is non-sub liberation. Parents formed over years do not do overnight. It's not the irreversible happens. He stopped believing who or a belief with the through. Thought, rule knows it. She is told this through. Not free in deity, but freeing who unconscious beings. Freeing to respond as stuff react. Freedom to remain present when fear demands escape. This freedom is subtle, but it is profound. It changes how you experience conflict, how you experience authority, how you experience yourself. You no longer need to be perfect. You no need to be certain. You no longer need to be in control. You only need to be aware. And once practice becomes self-sustaining, it does not require constant effort. It grows stronger the more is trusted. This is why Jesus speaks of abiding, of remaining, of dwelling. Awareness is not something you do, but something is there with. And this day, the spell contains loosen, which raising important question. If awareness is so powerful, it seems dissolves unconscious rule. Why do so many people drift back into blindness? That question takes us to the final charge Jesus addresses, distraction. Why blindness returns so easily? If fear protects blindness, control guys, distractions assumed it. This is the fall and most effective defense against rules, not force, not temptation, not deception, but constant diversion. Jesus understands this intuitively. Long before modern life normalized endless stimulation, he recognized how easily tension can be pulled away from presence. Distraction does not feel dangerous. It feels busy. It feels productive. It feels necessary. And that is precisely why it works. Distraction with awareness not by pushing it, but by crowding it out. It fills every quiet space with noise, every pause with urgency, every moan of those who function at demise reaction. In such an environment, seeing becomes rare, not because impossible, but because near a given time. She the Frau who frowns from crowds, even in their Frau. He steps away from praise, from the main, Verwendung. This is not rejection. It is protection of awareness. Crowds generate distraction. Not only external noise, but internal pressure. Expectations form. Rules solidify. Identity tightens. Awareness shrinks. Distraction thrives wherever a day becomes performance. This is why Jesus warns against practice in righteousness to be seen. Not because visibility is evil, but because attention becomes divided. One's attention is split between presence and appearance, or weakens. And when words weakens, the symbolic ruth turn quietly. Distraction so because it does not feel like blindness. It feels like engagement. You're doing something. Tension humming. Responding to vomit. But beneath the activity, word is invited. Life happens quickly in this state. The things may. Reactions occur. Hands repeat. And after, people were right to err. Jesus calls his conditionally. Theoic, he sent, not because danger is imminent, but because drift is constant. Distraction teaches people from news and drift. It convinces them that motion equals direction, that speed equals progress, that busyness equals meaning. As long as those assumptions hold, worse is postponed indefinitely. Symbolic rules benefit from this arrangement. It did not need to solve the worst completely. They only need to keep the delayed. Tomorrow. Later. When things slow down. But things rarely slow down on their own. This is why Jesus creates interruptions. He asks questions that hold momentum. He tells stories that resist quick interpretation. He pauses where others rush. He rests when others push slower. These are not personality quirks. They are delivered out of distraction. Awareness recalls room. It needs silence as much as speech. Stillness as much as action. Without rhythm, attention fragments. And fragmented attention can't sustain. Distraction also disguises self as concern for others. Obligation. Duty. Responsibility. These mod false valleys, born are used to avoid presence, they become choose of blindness. Jesus confronts this gently but firmly. Martha, Martha. He does not criticize her service. He points out her division. She is pulled in many directions. Her attention's everywhere but presence. And in that state, even good intentions produce anxiety. Mary, sitting quietly, is not being idle. She's being attentive. And attention, Jesus implies, is not optional. Is foundational. This moment reveals something essential, or does not opposed to action. It puhi. Thou words, action becomes impulsive. The words, action becomes responsive. Distraction versus the hour. It pauses when doomed foreseen. Into reacting before noticing. Into speaking before understanding. And once a pattern becomes habitual, blindness feels now. This is where return to us feels uncomfortable first. Thought of was restlessness. Stillness reveals anxiety. Present brings undissolved fears into view. Distraction protects people from discomfort. But Jesus does not offer distractions refuge. He offers truth. And truth requires willingness to remain what arises without immediately escaping. This is a dissipate no sag grow, and intentional truth. The ability to be with the truth without rushing to sway, fix it, or flee forth. Distraught truth without the faith who the least threatening. It does not mean enforcement. People participate willingly. They fill their lives with enough noise to never notice what governs them. And yet, Jesus insists that freedom is still possible, not through dramatic acts, not through secret knowledge, but through turn again, through tension, watching, listening, remain. That is why his invitation so simple, so difficult at the same time. Follow me, not as imitation, as orientation. Follow awareness, follow presence, follow as real, not what is loud. When distraction loosens its grip, awareness has room to breathe again. And when worth returns, a symbolic rule finding souls of spools, not by confrontation, but by relevance. It cannot woo is no longer asleep. And this brings the journey towards final movement. Because once awareness stabilizes, once fear, control, and distraction lose their domains, something new becomes possible. Not escape from the world, but engagement without bondage. Those were Jesus leads next. Engagement without bondage. Jesus never invites people to escape the world. He does not ask them to retreat into isolation or jet ordinary life. Instead, he teaches something far more demanding: how to remain fully present in the world without surrendering awareness to it. Is distinction awareness? Is taping the world easy? Remaining awake within it is not. The world Jesus speaks about is not the phys ours. It is the network of assumptions, pressures, expectations, and fears that shape behavior without being questioned. It is the atmosphere people breathe without noticing. To live in it is unavoidable. To be ruled by is optional. This is why Jesus says it falls in not the world, even while I lay aside. He is not trying more boundary. He is describing a perceptual one. To be the world is to take its narrative as of lit, to let its if divine reality, to allow its urgency to dictate attention, to confuse its value with truth. To live in the world without being ruled by it is to remain present without becoming absorbed. Jesus models this balance constantly. He eats with people. He tends weddings. He walks through cities and villages. He participates fully in her life. And yet, he is never hurried by it, never trapped by it, never defined by its reactions. When crowds praise him, he does not inflate. When authorities threaten him, he does not shrink. When shrinking instincts is shanked, he does not panic. Within to remain stable. Stability does not come from detachment. It comes from alignment, for what is root deep in circumstance. This is the life Jesus invites people into. No life free from difficulty, but life free from unconscious domination. A life where you can respond without being compelled. Where you can care without being controlled. Where you can act without being driven by fear. This is why Jesus does not oppose wealth, power, or influence in the souls. He opposes attachment to them. Attachment is what turns tools into masters. Attachment is what allows us to fall forth after deeping Paul states. You cannot serve two masters. That statement is not about moral loyalty. It is about attention. You cannot do the worst, fear and truth at the same time. You cannot be present and composed simultaneously. Something always guides perception. Living in the world without being ruled by means noticing you are servant. What voice do you obey when wash us? What impulse to ritsu when fear appears? What story do you believe when uncertainty arises? These questions are not meant to induce guilt. They are meant to restore choice. Jesus does not demand perfection. He invites honesty. Honesty will how easily a word slips. Honesty about how seductive control can feel. Honesty about how comforting destruction is. And yet, he also assists a fountain deep or remains available. Seek first the kingdom. Not later. Not elsewhere. No. Seeking in this sense and not striving is orienting. Turn attention to what was real, present, and alive beneath the noise of expectation. If orientation changes everything, work becomes engagement of thought indeed. Relationships become connection instead of validation. Challenge the confirmation of threats. The world does not leave intensity. It loses authority. This is why Jesus cafe yoke is easy in his burden light. He is not denying the way of life. He's removing the unnecessary weight by fear, control, and unconscious obedience. While works leads, effort decreases. When presence guides action, resistance lessens. When courage replaces compulsion, life becomes simpler, even when remains demanding. Leans where a course practice, not mastery, but return. Oars drifts, distraction returns. Fear surfaces, true ties. This is not failure. It is human. Jesus never treats return as shameful. He treats as expected. Come back. Abide. Main. These are not commands. They are invitations to recenter. And if this recenter becomes familiar, something so but powerful occurs. You begin to move through the world to hurry. Less reoccur. Less differentful. Less driven by narratives that once felt unquestionable. You are still in the world. And no around you. And from that place, thunderous but becomes possible. You can engage with systems without becoming them. You can challenge power without becoming consumed by it. You can care deeply without losing yourself. This is the freedom Jesus embodies. Not withdrawal, not domination, but presence with clarity. And that clarity does not isolate you. It connects you more deeply to others, to reality, to what's true beneath appearances. This is why Jesus' teaching endures. It does not offer escape. It offers grounding. It does not promise immunity. It promises worse. In worse, once established, changes how everything is experienced. Which leads to the fine realization, one that Jesus hints again and again, and never forces. Worse does not make you superior. It makes you responsible. Because once you see, you cannot see. And what you do with that thought becomes a final questioning. A quiet way awareness. There is a moment that comes up a scene that no one warns you about. It is not you for it. It is not dramatic. It does not feel like triumph. It feels like weight. Not the crushing wave humiliation, but quiet, stability. The kind that comes chooses far away. When you can no pretend it didn't know for shaping you. When you earth is no or a shelter. Jesus understands this weight. He never romanticizes awakening. He never presents sighs gift without consequence. Instead, he speaks at a threshold. To whom much is given, much is required. This is not a threat. It is disruption. Seeing that no make life easier never sense. It makes life truer. And truth carries a swath of beauty, not imposed on my side, but arising naturally from clarity. Once you see how fear manipulates, you cannot comfortably surrender to it again. Once you see how control disguises self as care, you cannot uncritically enforce us. Once you feel a shrine sealed presence, you cannot fully justify arising. This is the cry castle wearies. She that never pressures people across this threshold. He invites them and then allows them to walk away. Many do, not because they are evil or foolish, but because the weight feels too heavy. The rate-feeling ruler is not condemned for his wealth. He's expelled by attachment. Jesus clothed gone to when the God is named, the man hesitates, not because he is not understand, but because he understands too well. Thing reveals what you are unwilling to release, and that revelation can be painful. Responsibility in Jesus' deed is not more affection. It is about integrity of awareness, living a way that matches what you see, allowing perception to inform action, rather than retreating harder when action becomes inconvenient. Is integrity so? It does not know to self. It does not seek recognition. It also wants ordinary on the outside. Entirely, it changes everything. You begin to notice moments where you could revert to old patterns and choose not to. Not discipline, but because those patterns no longer make sense. Fear feels exaggerated. Control feels unnecessary. Distraction feels empty. This does not mean those impulses disappear. These still rise, but they rise without authority. Responsibility after seeing is not about constant vigilance. It is about alignment. Allowing words to guide response naturally, without force. Jesus moves this again and again. He's not hardened after seeing suffering. He softens. He's not become rigid after recognizing an abolition. He becomes more discerning. He does not withdraw to recounting existence. He remains present. This is a responsibility of sight to remain human. Awareness could tempt people toward superiority, toward detachment, toward judgment. Jesus refuses all three. His theme does not isolate him. It deepens compression. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. That Stephen is not naivete. In his clarity, he sees the forces at work: fear, blindness, obedience, unseen pressures, and he responds in high hatred. Responsibility not mean confrontation in return. It means discernment, knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait, when to engage and when to sit back. A word sharpens timing. This is why Jesus' actions feel precise. He does not react impulsively. He moves in line when he's present. He pauses when he's not. Responsibility seems less about doing more and more about doing a fist. This can be lonely. Once a war stabilizes, certain conversations lose their appeal. Certain conflicts lose their urgency. Certain roles no longer feel authentic. You may find yourself less interested in proving, persuading, or performing. This is not withdrawal. It is reorientation. Responsibility may align your life to reorganize around truth other than fear. Reorganization's rarely dramatic. It happens quietly, choice by choice, moment by moment. Jesus does not offer a blueprint for this life. He offers a way of being present that allows the blueprint to emerge naturally. Follow me. Again, not imitation, the orientation. Follow his moves. Follow truth as it reveals itself. Follow presence as it deepens. This is not a path he completes. It is a posture you return to. And this is why Jesus never speaks of awakening as an endpoint. He speaks of it as a beginning. A door that opens onto life responses rather than reaction. Once you see, you are not finished. You are entrusted. Entrusted with attention. Entrusted with discernment. Entrusted with the ability to respond without being ruled. That trust is not bestowed thermally. It's recognized quietly. And carries simple, to make the implication. You cannot go back to sleep, not fully. You can drift. You can forget. You can return to destruction with something you will remember. And that memory will keep inviting you back to awareness. This is a responsibility Jesus places before people, not as a burden. It was a possibility to live awake, to live present, to live free without becoming armed. And with that possibility comes the fine realization, when that tide I think you go there. Awareness was never meant to isolate you from the world. It was meant to return you to it, fully alive. Awakening thus gave. Jesus never set out to create a hidden tradition or a secret path reserved for few. He was not teaching people access to the knowledge or uncover visible enemies. We offer as both simple and foremost serving. You invite people to wake up, not to another wolf, or to this one, not to supernatural sight, but to clear perception, not to power over others, but to freedom from unconscious rule. Everything is teaching points in this direction. We speaks about light, he's talking about witness. When he speaks about truth, he's talking a thing clearly. When he speaks about freedom, he's talking about no more being governed by what you do not notice. The symbolic language that grew around as masses, rulers, powers, authorities, was never meant to distract from this invitation. It was meant to rotate it, to preserve a way of talking about influence and domination that people could recognize before they more lane for psychology, systems, or conditioning. Jesus was teaching people how to see what moves them. Fear that pretends to be wisdom. Control that pretends to be care. Distraction that pretends to be purpose. He did not teach people to destroy these forces. He taught them to outgrow them, to move the blindness they depend on, to draw attention to sustain them. This is why his teaching still feels dangerous. Not because it encourages rebellion, but because it removes the need for it. Once our stabilizes, though these shall lose his fruit. People they call hard to manipulate, hard to find, hard to hurt. They also become more compassionate. Because sin does not harden heart. It softens us. Once you recognize which a human behavior is strewn by unseen fear and conditioning, judgment loses appeal. Condemnation feels unnecessary. Hatred feels misplaced. Jesus Koi produces more superiority. This is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of awakening. Many assume seeing will make them powerful. Jesus shows that make them present, attentive, responsive, able to remain human in the face of pressure. He never separates words from love, never separates truth and compassion, never separates seeing from responsibility. This is why he refuses spectacle, why he avoids dramatizing awakening, why he keeps returning to ordinary images, bread, fields, seeds, lamps, water. He's grounding perception in everyday life, now living earth. Awareness is non-seehash, is a return to this moment, to this breath, to this interaction, fully here, fully awake. And once that return happens, even briefly, something becomes obvious. The rules will never assume obvious. They were past sustained by blindness. And blindness was never a curse. It was simply as a thing. Jesus does not shame people for that absence. He addresses it gently, persistently, patiently. Come see, not believe, not obey. See, because once you see, belief re-raises self. Obedience becomes alignment, and faith stops being effort to go on and becomes a willingness to remain present. This is the suppressed truthfully in the sense that is unconscious. It cannot be systematized easily. It does not scale wealth or fear. It cannot be enforced without being corrupted. Awareness resists ownership, which is why it must be rediscovered personally, quietly, without spectacle. Jesus trusted people this responsibility. He trusted assumed the saw exist, saw walk away, and through return later. Can now chase. He never calls. He never mutilate. He invited. That invitation remains unchanged. To know us what governs you. To question feels now. To remain present when fear demandeth he. To live in the world how being ruled by, not perfectly, not causally, honestly. Awakening in this sense is not a destination. It is posture turned to again and again, and each return loosens the grip of who once felt house loose. You do not need new eyes. You need clear attention. You do not need secret knowledge. You need honest presence. And you do not need to escape the world. You need to think clearly in yourself the is. That is what Jesus taught. That is what he embodied. And that is what he quietly embodied to practice. Not tomorrow. Not elsewhere. Here. No.